The U.S. House could vote today on a bill to ban imports of Russian oil and energy products. Speaker Nancy Pelosi says that the bill would also review Russia's access to the World Trade Organization and strengthen an existing Human Rights Act so that the U.S. can impose further sanctions on Russia. So joining me now to talk all about this is senior White House correspondent Weijia Jang. Weijia, thanks for joining me. First, let's start with this ban on Russian oil products. The president warned, look, there's a good possibility the gas prices are going to go up. So why pursue this ban right now, especially when there isn't a plan in place to, protect Americans from rising prices?
Well, I think there are a few reasons, Anne-Marie. I mean, Congress was already preparing to pass its own legislation, as you just mentioned, and I think that the president did not want that to happen before he himself took action, since from the very start he has said he would do whatever he could to really send a message to Putin and to cripple his efforts over there in any way. And there's also broad American support by the public. A new poll that was released this week shows that 71% of Americans, despite the prices you're seeing on your screen here, said that they would support a ban on Russian oil, even if that meant they had to pay a little bit more at the pump because of what's at stake here. Obviously, those images we keep seeing out of Ukraine, the inhumanity that we are witnessing has moved many people, although the question will be how much more are they willing to pay? And then, this really sets a tone for the rest of the world. I mean, President Biden acknowledged yesterday that our European allies cannot do as much as the U.S. is doing right now, which is a total ban, because our energy dependence on Russia is very different from those European countries. We produce a lot more domestically. We only import about 3% of crude oil, 7 to 8% of total product. So that's easier for the U.S. To make up than European countries, which purchase significantly more from Russia. However, it does set a bar. It does show Putin that energy is on the table. By the way, the president is having conversations with other countries about how to make up for this gap if other countries were to follow suit on a total ban. So I think that it just really signals to Russia that this is a powerful step, and it's only the first of what we anticipate could be many to come as more pressure mounts on European countries to follow the U.S.
And so in the meantime, while there are a lot of Republicans saying that this is also a reason why the U.S. should be more energy independent, we have found out that, in fact, U.S. officials have been looking for oil elsewhere, like Venezuela. So now we're learning that 2 Americans detained in Venezuela were released after U.S. officials met with President Maduro to consider lifting oil sanctions while energy prices soar. Can you tell us more about this meeting?
Yes, this was a meeting that came a little bit as a surprise, just because it had been so long since the U.S. had a formal engagement with Venezuela. But you're right, Anne-Marie. I think that the regime there saw an opportunity, quite frankly, because Venezuela is one of the few countries that can fill some of the gap from a global shortage of Russian oil if that were to be taken out of the market, with more countries banning it. And so, there has been some sharp criticism from both sides, from Republicans and from Democrats, especially progressives, who say, this just exposes how weak U.S. energy policy is if we have to go from one brutal dictator to another for our oil needs. But the issue is happening right now. I mean, there's not a lot of time to talk about that right now when you're trying to, provide some sort of instant relief for people at the pump, because those prices continue to climb every day. And so it's not only Venezuela. The U.S. is having talks with Iran and Saudi Arabia, of course, 2 more countries that are not exactly the most optimal partners for the U.S. But I think the president has indicated he's going to do whatever he can to bring those gas prices down. And to me, it looks like the lesser of 2 evils at this point, with Russia on one side and these other countries on the other, because, again, the ultimate goal is to provide relief to Americans.
All right, Weijia, thank you very much.
Sure.